There are moments in life when we don't even know why we're exhausted. We keep working, keep trying, keep smiling in front of others. But deep inside, something feels like it's quietly falling apart. We go searching for answers through books, meditation, and wise teachings. But sometimes, happiness isn't found in lofty ideas. It hides in a lesson so silly, it makes us laugh out loud. This is the story of Lina, a young woman caught between pressure and the deep longing to be true to herself, and of a strange man who taught her a lesson she would never forget, all with nothing but a costume and a walk around the city square. Lina was a young woman living in the heart of a modern city, a place where everything moved too fast, too loud, and sometimes too far from the heart. She had a stable job, an enviable salary, and a life that many would look at and say, she's so lucky. But only Lina knew the truth, that behind the stressful meetings, the cold stares from her boss, and the forced smiles at weekend cafes was a growing emptiness inside her. She didn't understand why she always felt so tired, not physically, but a deep, soul-level exhaustion, as if each passing day quietly chipped away a small part of who she was. She tried everything to recharge: self-help books, personal growth podcasts, early morning yoga, even a weekend meditation retreat. But no matter how hard she tried, something still felt missing. Something small, yet incredibly important, a sense of lightness in her soul. Then one day, on a rainy afternoon, while wandering through the old quarter to escape another wave of looming deadlines, Lina heard a burst of laughter echoing from a tiny shop at the end of an alley. Outside, on a weathered wooden sign, it read, "The House of the Laughing Old Man, Keeper of the Secret to a Lighter Heart." At first, she thought it was some kind of joke, maybe a themed cafe or some quirky little studio. But for some reason, she felt drawn in. She pushed the door open and was immediately enveloped in a strange and whimsical space, filled with odd trinkets, playful drawings, and most strikingly, an elderly man with eyes that sparkled with laughter. "What are you looking for, my dear?" he asked, his voice warm and slow. Lina looked at him, hesitated for a moment, then softly replied, I'm not quite sure. Maybe I'm looking for a way to feel happier, lighter." He nodded, squinting as if he'd heard that sentence 100 times before. Then he smiled and tilted his head. That secret? I can teach you. But first, you have to do one thing. Something very simple, but also a little bit silly." Lina's eyes widened, not knowing that from that very moment, her journey of change had truly begun. Lina sat quietly across from the laughing old man, the stranger she'd met barely 5 minutes ago. Yet somehow, his simple smile had already lifted something heavy off her chest. She had hoped for a deep philosophical insight, some profound lesson like the one she'd read in all those self-help books. But no. Instead, he slowly walked to the corner of the room, rummaged through a pile of odd objects, and returned with a giant banana costume. "Tomorrow," he said, placing the costume on the table, eyes twinkling like a child about to play a prank, "you'll wear this and walk around the city square during rush hour. Most importantly, you must keep a big, joyful smile on your face the entire time." Lina blinked. She thought she'd misheard, then let out an awkward laugh. "Wait, are you serious?" "Completely," he replied, still wearing that warm, patient smile. "If you truly want to feel light again, you must learn not to take yourself so seriously." She looked at the costume. It was ridiculous, bright yellow, oddly shaped, and definitely the kind of thing that would attract every pair of eyes on the street. She could already imagine people stopping, pointing, bursting into laughter, and a wave of embarrassment rose at her chest. "You don't need to impress anyone," the laughing old man added, as if reading her thoughts. "You just need the courage to do something silly and smile through it. That alone frees you from the heavy burden of trying to look put together all the time." Lina picked up the costume, her hands trembling slightly. She had never done anything this absurd in her life. And yet, deep inside, something stirred, a tiny spark of excitement, like she was standing in front of a door, one that led to a place where old rules no longer applied. Before leaving, she turned back and asked, If I do this, then what? He simply smiled. Then you'll find your answer. That night, Lina brought the banana costume home, folded it neatly, and placed it on her sofa. Looking at it, she couldn't tell if she was about to do something utterly stupid or the bravest thing she'd ever done. But something inside her had shifted, a strange, weightless feeling that felt oddly real, as if she was about to learn something no book had ever taught her: the art of laughing at yourself. The next morning, the sky was an unusually clear blue. Lina stood in front of the mirror, staring at herself in the blindingly yellow banana costume. She looked absolutely ridiculous, and that was the whole point. A part of her wanted to rip it off, dive back under the covers, and pretend she'd never agreed to such a crazy thing. But then she remembered the sparkle in the laughing old man's eyes, and she asked herself, if I don't try this, will I regret it? She took a deep breath, pulled the oversized banana hat over her head, stepped outside, and headed toward the city square, the busiest place in town, where every glance would find her. Every step felt like a challenge. She could already hear quiet chuckles behind her. People on the street lifted their heads, staring at her with a mix of surprise, amusement, and confusion. A little kid tugged at his mom's sleeve and shouted, "Mom, look, a walking banana." Lina couldn't help but smile. At first, her smile was stiff. Her cheeks felt frozen with embarrassment. But then a young couple walked past, burst into laughter, and gave her a big thumbs up. An old man selling lottery tickets clapped his hands and called out, "This girl's got spirit." Someone asked to take a selfie with her. A group of students cheered and waved. But none of it felt mocking. They weren't laughing at her. They were joining in the strange, beautiful joy of it all. Slowly, Lina's embarrassment melted away. She started to smile for real. Then she waved at strangers, swayed her steps like an actual banana. She heard laughter, saw cheerful eyes, and felt something magical, a quiet connection with complete strangers. No explanations needed, no name tags, just a human being daring to be real. In her entire life, Lina had never felt so free. No more holding it together, no more being appropriate or acceptable or someone else. She was simply herself, in a ridiculous banana costume, in the middle of a crowded city, with a heart as light as the clouds above. When the loop around the square finally ended, she flopped onto a bench, breathing heavily, but her eyes sparkled with joy. People passing by still smiled at her like they'd known her forever. For the first time, the world felt gentle. That afternoon, Lina returned to the little shop tucked away at the end of the alley, the place where everything had begun. She was still wearing the banana costume, now slightly dusty from the road. But in her eyes shimmered a feeling she couldn't quite name. As the door creaked open, the laughing old man looked up from his old book, and as if he had already known, he smiled gently and asked, "So, did you make anyone laugh?" Lina let out a small giggle and nodded. I laughed too, and strangely enough, it felt really good." He nodded knowingly and poured her a cup of fragrant tea. "You know," he said slowly, "people spend their whole lives chasing success, chasing meaning, chasing worth. But often, they forget one simple truth. You can't truly live happily if you're constantly tightening yourself just to be accepted." He set the cup down and looked straight into Lina's eyes, not with the gaze of someone lecturing, but with something real, warm, honest. Today's challenge wasn't about bravery. It was about letting go. You let go of your fear of being laughed at. You let go of the polished, proper, respectable mask the world always expects you to wear. And when you dare to be joyfully ridiculous, you didn't become weaker. You became stronger than ever. Lina fell silent. Those words touched a place she had kept hidden for so long. All this time, she believed she had to be more competent, more serious, more useful to be loved, to feel like she mattered. But today, she was just a girl in a banana costume, dancing in the streets. And in that moment, she felt truly connected to the world. Through laughter, through unfiltered, unpolished sincerity. "Life is already heavy enough," he continued softly, "and people are already carrying so much. So why not choose to be gentle with yourself? Why not allow yourself to be silly, to be wrong, to laugh out loud? Without guilt, Lina bowed her head, quietly hiding a single tear that had slipped down her cheek. She had been searching for big, important answers. But in the end, what she needed most was simply to be freed from the weight of the seriousness she had unknowingly chained herself to every single day. A lesson that seemed silly at first, yet somehow carried the kind of weight that makes the soul feel light again. From that day on, Lina was no longer the same girl. Not because she had become stronger or wiser, but because she had learned how to let go of the invisible weight that had quietly pressed on her shoulders for so long. She no longer tried to become the ideal version in other people's eyes. She simply chose to be herself, sometimes silly, sometimes awkward, but always honest and ready to smile. Whenever she felt stressed or discouraged, Lina didn't reach for books or motivational videos like she used to. Instead, she closed her eyes and remembered that morning when she, dressed in a bright yellow banana suit, walked through the busy streets and heard laughter echo all around. She remembered how light her heart felt. She remembered the friendly eyes, the unexpected applause, and above all, she remembered her own smile, no longer forced but real. Now, whenever she faces something difficult, she quietly asks herself, if I were wearing the banana suit right now, how would I react? And strangely, that ridiculous question calms her down, because deep inside, she knows, as long as she can stay lighthearted and gentle with herself, there's no challenge too big to face. Lina didn't become a speaker. She didn't write a book. She didn't start a motivational channel. But just by how she lived, she began to spread a quiet, contagious energy to those around her. She laughed more, spoke more often to strangers, listened without judging, and reminded her friends gently. Sometimes a big life lesson comes from something small, even from a banana. Her life didn't change in the way people usually expect, but she had changed. She no longer searched for happiness somewhere far away, because now she knew true happiness is simply having the courage to let go, to laugh at yourself, and to fully live each moment, no matter how ridiculous it may seem. And if one day you see a girl dancing through the streets in a ridiculous costume, not caring what anyone thinks, there's a good chance that's Lina. Or maybe it's you, if you finally let go and let laughter lead the way back to your heart. Life doesn't ask us to always be serious, proper, or perfect. Sometimes just being willing to laugh, to be a little silly, is already strong enough to carry you through the storm. Remember this, you don't have to be anyone else. Just be you, sincere, gentle, and brave enough to laugh out loud in the face of everyday struggles. Because who knows, maybe that foolish little moment is the exact moment you touch true freedom.